On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. She's an actress, singer, songwriter, entrepreneur, artistic phenom. You'll know her from hit movies such as 8 Mile, Hustle and Flow, Crossroads, and Crazy Beautiful, as well as the hit TV shows such as Orange is the New Black and one of my personal favorites, Sons of Anarchy. Please welcome the amazing Taryn Manning. How you doing, Taryn?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Super excited for today. You have my word. We will manufacture magic here today.
Right. Manufacture it, huh?
That's it.
Just slice and cut and splice and push together.
That's exactly right.
Make it a masterpiece.
We're going to mold a masterpiece. I could have said better myself.
I like
So
it.
look, I want to be a little bit more unique and different than the typical questions that, you typically get asked, so we could have fun and obviously provide the audience with a ton of value. But one of the things that I love about you and what I'm so interested in is, and the audience will be as well, is not so much all the impressive success stories that you've had, but as Taryn the person and just the mindset as you've overcome your share of challenges and adversity and so forth. And I admire that so much about you, and you've been through a lot. And we'll do a little bit of a background just so the audience can get caught up, just in case they didn't know you, which I'm sure they do. But in the beginning, when you were first starting out, you came from very humble beginnings. That's a little bit of an understatement, correct?
Yeah, to
Okay.
understand.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. I was born in Fairfax, Virginia. Actually, Falls Church, Virginia. And yeah, I grew up in Tucson, and I was a single mother with 2 kids. So it's typical, kind of typical story of a mom trying to make it happen and doing everything she could. Sacrificed a lot for me and my brother.
Yeah. And you have so many passions, which I love. I think is so cool. Did you know from an early age, like which one that you gravitated towards the most in regards to like acting or singing or stuff like that?
Well, when I was young, I actually, I always had a lot of energy. So my mom would literally have to drive me around when I was a baby in the car with music blaring for me to actually fall asleep. So, I always liked just a lot of activity, a lot of energy. So I started off doing, I did every single sport under the sun. I did karate. Like even though I grew up in Section 8 housing and government help. I had such an amazing mom because she somehow figured out how I could do everything I wanted to do. Because if they were doing it, I wanted to do it. So she always said I had champagne taste on a beer budget.
That's awesome.
I'd be like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool. And then she'd always say, you know what, Taryn, you just march to the beat of your own drum, don't ya? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I never like realized, but then as I got older, I'm like, that's right. I march to the beat of my own drum.
That's it.
But anyway, I started off doing martial arts and I did really well with that. So I was a third degree green belt in karate and
Wow.
I was winning first place all the time. And then when I won second place, because somebody wanted it a little more than I. And so one of my biggest like lessons for people is like, once you're on top, it's about staying on top. Because sometimes when we get to where we think we wanted to go, which is number one, we start to slack. And somebody wants it just as bad and they're hot on your heel. So at a very young age, I was a very sore loser and I quit. And so I started doing ballet and jazz all the time. And I just have a very competitive spirit. I love healthy competition. I've always seen acting as a competition. I don't see it as, I mean, I'm a thespian and I love to act, but I also, when I'm sitting in the room to audition, I'm looking around like, and I'm not looking at anybody's looks because it's it's the right man for the job, but I'm literally sitting there going, oh, I got this. Just because that's just who I am.
Good.
And I like winning awards and I like winning trophies. And I know that it's not about that, but there's something if you want an Oscar or a Grammy, come on, it's just affirmation that that you're seen, that your work was seen, even though art is so subjective, it's so hard to put, number one on any movie when they're all so different. Every actor is so different. I've always wanted to make the same movie with two totally different casts and just see how very different that movie would turn out.
That's so interesting. I
Yeah,
love that
so
perspective.
yeah, that's sort of how I started, And then my dad was a musician, so
So
that's
uh,
truly my DNA is music.
I can tell, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But a couple things on what you just said. Number one, I think anybody listening to this would be lying to themselves if they didn't say that they appreciate awards and so forth, because it's not like a selfish thing. It's validation for your hard work and for your passion. So that's nice, to be able to be recognized as that. So I totally agree. In regards to the karate and stuff like that, number one, don't mess with you. And number two, was that a passion of yours or was it more of an outlet?
Um, well, it was one of those things. It was like I told you, I was just so active, and it was like some type of flyer that went around elementary school, and I got my hands on it, and I wanted to do it, and then I started to excel in it and win. I won trophies taller than me, It was so cool against boys. It was co-ed, and
That's great.
I think it was. I can't tell you between 8 and 10 if I was conscious enough to know if it was an outlet or. But I was into it. I was just a really sore loser, and it taught me a lot at a very young age about um, always like honing your skill. Constantly practicing. That's some of my biggest notes that I give to people that come up to me. That how'd you do it? I don't know. There's no blueprint to the top. Like if I could literally write out step one, the beep beep, step two. It's not like that. It's a mindset. It's that you don't compare yourself to anybody else ever, because that's just completely useless to do. And that you have blinders on. It's like beep, and you're just going forward.
Absolutely.
And you're not ruthless.
Speaking my
You're not,
language.
huh?
I say you speak in my language right now, all about the mindset.
Yeah, like you're not like kicking people out of the way. You're rooting for everybody, because if you're if you really love what you do, then you want to see everybody around you succeed, because it kind of lifts everybody up into a frequency that's I call 5.0. So I've never been like a hater on other actresses that make it. I'm always so proud. Sometimes it can even bring me to tears when I see someone doing well. I've never felt vindictive or like that should have been my part. I'm just like, best man for the job. The best man wins.
This is so
Oh.
valuable. It's awesome. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like whether I was in business on Wall Street or with what I'm doing now, whenever I see people succeeding, it doesn't trigger any type of hatred. If anything, it gets me excited because I'm competitive, number one. And just like you, like I'll see someone having success and I'll probably think if they could do it, it's only a matter of time before I surpass them. And I say that respectfully, but I just have a ton of self-belief, and obviously you do too. But I totally agree. Seeing other people succeed is beneficial for everybody. Love that you said that.
Of course, because it's like, guess what? I always say this, guess what? You too can do this.
Yeah.
Because where I came from, there was no connections. I knew nobody. I just had a dream, and I had skills, and I married them and went for it.
Yeah. And you're relentless. And I say that in the most respectful way possible.
I
I think
used to
what you
be. I'm
brought
not
up.
like that anymore, though. I've definitely slowed down with getting older. Like that's what I was telling you before we started, just to be careful. Like never. Well, try not to burn the candle at both ends, because you can lose like why you started to do it. If you're tired or just burnt out. So.
And just for the audience, this is so great. And what Taryn is referring to is we had a quick conversation before we went on air. And basically, I was letting her know straight up that I don't have a ton of balance right now because I'm building CLS and it's taking off and I'm working 20-hour days. And she gave some unbelievable, priceless advice that I received into my soul. And this, you will burn out. Even if you're doing something you love, you have to give yourself a little bit of space to kind of just catch your breath. That's
I
awesome.
think balance is like the key to life. They say moderation, balance,
Yeah.
all those things that get drilled into our heads.
I'm still working on it.
The same.
And listen, life is a journey. It's not a destination. We
That's
learn
right.
as we go.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
Tortoise in the hare.
Yes.
And nice guys finish last. Yeah.
That's so true. Tell us what you mean by that exactly.
It means exactly what I said earlier, like that sometimes, really cutthroat people that don't have your best interest in mind, they might get to the top, but you see the same people going up as you do coming down. So imagine like an elevator, like, imagine on set, there's a PA that's like a personal assistant, fresh an awesome person that's fresh into town, you know, they're on set, they're an intern, you might want to just go ahead and be kind to them, because you don't know if they're going to end up being, I mean, they're interning because they want it so bad that they're working for free. So imagine that spirit. So I'm just saying, you want to always be nice guys finish last. What I'm saying is, because you're not just bursting through people and just, you know, like it's just, it takes a little longer, but it's more sustaining. It lasts longer. There's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is like a flash in the pan. Wealthy is healthy. Wealthy lasts forever. You know, money that you make properly through kindness and through hard work, not extortion or burning a bridge. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by that.
And you can see how big I'm smiling right now because you're speaking my language, you're speaking right into my soul. And something that I think is so cool that you just said is like, you see an intern on set and your perspective is like, wow, imagine the spirit on that cat, because they're obviously hustling and grinding to get to a bigger position, so to speak. And that's so true. And it ties back to what you said earlier. Like, and this is something I can relate to, and it seems like you could too, even with the karate. Like, you're never as hungry as when you're climbing. And then when you get to the top, it's a little bit more challenging to maintain that eye of the tiger, so to speak.
Yes. That for me has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Because once you're at the top, you're like, oh man, woo, you want to take a knee, take a breath, because what you've done to get there, but you can't.
No,
You can't, because somebody wants it just as bad, if not more.
it's so true.
And God
100%.
bless them for it, you know? They keep you on your toes. So that's just what it is in this business.
It's true. So from around that age, like after the karate and stuff of that sort, how did you segue into like the acting, and when did that come about?
So then I started to dance, and I danced every single day my entire childhood after that, into my teenage years, into my early 20s. And like around 13 years old, some of the girls that were at dance class, they were like stretching, like doing their stretches or plies, and they were like talking like about their acting class. And I was eavesdropping. You know, I always had like my ear on the ground, and I heard that they were going up to this acting class in Burbank, and I was in San Diego. And so that night, when my mom picked me up, I'm like, I want to go to acting class, because I had to do everything everybody else. I was maybe a little bit of a poser. I don't care. Say
I haven't heard that word in years.
it. Leave it to me. Um, and I was like, Mom, Chandra and Ashley do acting class. I want to do it. Oh, Taryn, you know, I could barely afford it. And I'm like, I don't care. I mean, there was no telling me no. Like I said, champagne tastes on a beer budget. So next thing you know, every Wednesday night, I'm getting driven up to this very exclusive acting class. It was called The Shop. And it was these two acting teachers named John Homa and Andrew McGarrian. And at the time, there was a bunch of actors in there that weren't really famous at the time, but people I worked with like Evan Rachel Wood, Kirsten Dunst, Lily Sobieski, did I say Erica Christensen, Mercedes McNabb, all these young kids that were 13, 14.
That's a nice lineup right there.
Yeah, like I was acting around these actors, and my acting teacher would never put me with like Kirsten. He would never put me with Evan Rachel Wood, because he'd say, you're not good enough. And I just, you know, so I would just go home and study and study and study my lines. I am, but when I turned like 25 and I had made it, he said he did that on purpose, because he said he didn't want me really to go out into Hollywood until I was 19, which is probably one of the best advice ever. So I moved to Hollywood at 19, because I don't know, I guess at that point you're not too young, and you won't get like totally chewed up and spit out by the savages in Hollywood. But he was right. It was perfect. But right at it, 19, my first audition, like I was so prepared.
That advice is really priceless, because that reminds me of this movie. Have you ever seen the movie Whiplash
Mm-mm,
about the drums?
no.
Um, so basically, the drum instructor just rides the student, rides him, just like basically what you just said, like telling him he's not good enough, and all he does is go home and practice, and then finally he has like a major breakthrough and gets to be one of the best ever. And the whole point is like he would have never got to that level of greatness if he wasn't being, ridden rode, I should say, by the drum teacher or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you need that like psychological warfare push, and it seems like that worked in your favor.
Yeah, I was very frustrated. And again, like that competitive nature kicked in. It was good, you know, it was good. It hurt me at the time very
Sure.
deeply, but that's like when I started writing songs too, and I was like, well, oh yeah, because I can play the guitar too. So I don't need, you know, everything's always been like that. And I think because I lost my dad so abruptly and tragically at 14, I feel like sometimes what I've studied with children of like suicide parent is that either become like an overachiever or you become like a total the other way. And I think for a long time it was just like anything to just push through that pain too, you know. But I didn't know it at the time, but as long as I was doing things and running, I wasn't thinking about it. But it was better than like, you know, becoming an addict or something like
Yeah.
that. But I was just, you know, wake up, leave the house, go, 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 go. And that's fine, you know. My dad, if that didn't happen, I don't know if I would be where I am. And you know, I feel like part of this career has been a gift. I feel like I've touched enough people in a good way. I feel like there's a lot of negativity that I've dealt with, and so it's not all that it's cracked up to be honest. um, you know, people are very cruel out there to actors, artists. They love to just attack, write really awful things online that you can't control, but those are just things that you just have to somehow deal with, you know,
Stay in
best
your
you can.
lane and not give it the energy because life's too short. But I
Right.
just want to touch on something that you just said, which I think is so special. After what happened to your dad, you had a fork in the road and you made a decision, a choice to channel that built up energy and fuel, and you use it to even be more relentless, so to speak, and pursue your dreams, and could have easily gone down a different path. So I just want to let you know I admire that and I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Did you ever stay in touch with some of those girls that you were in acting with, like Kirsten and so forth?
Oh yeah, and yeah, we see each other around, and you know, there's always love and support. I remember I ended up doing Crazy Beautiful with
Yes,
her.
yes.
So it came down to 5 girls, and we all had to read with her. And that was a day that I looked around the room, and I was like, because we kind of looked, we both had short blonde hair, and the other girls were like, one had like big black curly hair, and one, you know, there was like, everyone was so different. And I'm like, I'm never gonna get the part. We look alike. And then when we saw each other from acting class, we just had this bond. And then the director was so smart because he said that best friends start to kind of look like each other, you know, because they do. And so he cast me, and that was an incredible experience with her. We had so much fun.
That's great.
Yeah, it was
So,
awesome.
right around that time when you were doing acting with them, was it straight shot with the acting at that point, or were you still doing the dancing and potentially singing?
Oh yeah, I was doing that. I was doing my ballet and jazz every day. I did that until I was about 22. And then yeah, then I started the band with my brother in between all that too.
That's awesome. You
I
guys,
had him, you know, my brother is a musical prodigy genius,
yeah.
and he's just like, Taryn, come here, sing over this. And I'm like, no. It's because it's my brother, and I don't want to. T, just sing over this. Here's the melody. Here's how it goes. So if I make like just like, but then before I knew it, my brother was just writing bangers. I mean, just incredible. And then and then we got signed to DreamWorks Records, and then I was like, I'm gonna get tattoos. I'm a rock star.
What was a better feeling for you internally when you finally got a deal with the singing, or
What do
when
you
you
think?
finally made it to Hollywood?
What do you think? What's your guess?
So I think that, most people would associate you with Hollywood, but I feel like deep down you have a real passion for the songwriting and stuff of that nature. Bingo, nailed it. Good, good. I have a good read.
You do.
That's awesome. Cool.
It's just who I am, but I love to act. I would never look a gift horse in its face. I really wouldn't. Been such a awesome time. I'm very severely typecast, which isn't always fun, but you know, I make a living doing what I love, so I'm so grateful. I
But also,
couldn't.
your best is yet to come.
I believe that.
I believe that.
I totally believe that.
So you go to Hollywood when you're 19, but before that you moved to California, right?
Mhm.
And then you went to actual Hollywood at 19. What was
Mhm.
that like aha moment? Like, oh shit, like I just made it. Like what happened first? What was like the
We
big
moved
milestone?
we moved from Arizona to San Diego, and then we moved from San Diego to Long Beach because I got accepted into Orange County High School of the Arts, OSHA, on a full ride a dance scholarship. So
Nice.
I went to 11th and 12th grade at like a fame type high school, and that was cool. And I guess the aha moment, I got cast for the practice. It was like a guest starring role in the practice,
I
and
remember that show.
I was just, I was 19, and I made Top of Show. That was at the time, it's called Top of Show. It was 5,000, maybe like $800 US dollars, and I thought I was rich.
I know this story.
I
I do my homework because preparation breeds confidence. So you quit your
thought
day
I
job,
was
right?
rich. I quit my job, and then I got my first check from, and I didn't know really about agent and manager and lawyer. And I was like, I called my mom sobbing. I'm like, my check's only like 2,000. She's like, what? We didn't know what the heck we were doing. So I had to get another day job.
That's great.
I was just so innocent. I came from no money. So that I never seen like several digits like that ever.
Well, listen, Taryn, it's always nice to say like, just read and get experience. But if I think like you, and also like me, you have to go through it and you have to get the experience and then you learn. And it seems like that situation was no different.
It was hilarious. It was funny going back to the drawing board.
So what was the first major like big break? Like so you've arrived, you're getting paid a little bit, and then was it Crazy Beautiful?
The big yeah, probably as far as like yeah, feature film goes and kind of being like a lead in it, I would say. There's so many things before that though, so many.
On the
Yeah,
journey.
I did there was a magazine called Backstage West in the early 2000s, and it's one of those things you could like flip through it and find out about acting classes and where to get your headshots. And there was also in the back like classified like student films. I mean, I started off as an extra. I had to earn my like 3 vouchers to
Because you
become.
had that spirit, the eye of the tiger.
Yeah, it's like I did this from the ground up. I literally went to this bookshop called Samuel French. You get books, how to get an agent, how to get a manager, you get labels to agencies. And I had this neighbor, he was this older gentleman. I was 19. I was like, hey, would you pretend to be my manager and follow up on all my packages I sent so I can get an
Are you being
agent?
serious? It's a true story?
100%. And his name was Stevenson, and he followed up. I sent out like 89 packages to all different agencies, and only 2 called. And he called with his voice. He's not a manager, he's just my neighbor. And next thing you know, I had a meeting with Epstein Wyckoff, and they became my first agent. So,
That's
yeah, this is
real.
a hilarious journey.
That's awesome. So Crazy Beautiful, that was the first like big set at the time.
Okay.
And then you did a
Movie.
yeah. And then after that, you got a nice back-to-back deal with a couple movies that I think the world is familiar with. Is that accurate?
Yeah, then I got my record deal. And then
Oh, okay.
and then that was huge. And then I got, yeah, then Crossroads. And so I was like recording my album, but then I had these movies in the can,
Oh, so this all happened at once, the record deal and the big movies.
all of it at once. It was wild.
That's a lot on your plate at one time.
It was a bum rush.
What's the mindset like right there? I'm on top of the world?
I was like 21, 22, just like kidding. I had no idea what was happening. I don't know. But I always was on time, and it was me and my brother. I had to wrangle my brother in though. Jeez, that was tough.
What do you mean?
Well, he's older and we got signed together. So it's just imagine working with your little sister, but all the while I'm like, he's my brother is like almost like it's like Billie Eilish, like that's her brother, but he's not really in the front. Like my bro's was in the back too. Like I was like the front woman, but still we were boom cat, but he didn't want to come to anything. So it's always like, Kellen, please, like begging my brother. But yeah, so it was a lot of stress. I always felt like I was like wrangling people and mothering people. I didn't really have much of like I mean, I definitely did my share of partying, but always in the studio and always like around work stuff, you know?
Yeah, good.
I say partying, I just mean having fun, you know?
Yeah.
Just
So
always have friends around and
it's also ironic because we just identified that your real passion is singing and so forth. That the two big movies that you got right there was Crossroads with Britney Spears and 8 Mile with Eminem. Two
yeah,
people who are obviously icons and phenoms. Anyone on planet Earth knows them, but are in the music industry. And this was like both their first movies in terms of Hollywood, and you were a part of both of those. That must have been so cool.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I was definitely, I mean, at the time, you know, I kind of, I was killing it with music too. And it was just, to me, it was like I was around my equals, my contemporaries, you know?
I love
I
that.
feel like they saw in me what they saw in themselves. I don't know. I can't explain why I got those roles, but it was really cool when he put one of our songs on the soundtrack. That definitely was a highlight.
I saw that. And just what you just said, that they were your equals, and rightfully so, because you are this juggernaut. You are so talented. You're doing acting, you're doing the singing and stuff of that nature. To have that type of confidence, that's what you need in life. To be able to be in the room with like bigger people that are juggernauts, you have to see them at your level. And it's not an arrogance thing, it's just a confidence thing, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was really young, and that's why I love like instilling a lot of confidence in the youth because they have that no fear attitude, you know, that I just, before adult problems got in the way and life happens, there's a time that is just so pure.
Yeah.
And yeah, at the time, I definitely was like, I mean, duh, of course I would get those parts.
I know what you mean when life is so pure. It's funny because like my brother just had a kid. My brother's my best friend in the world, and I'm looking at my little nephew. He's 7 months. He's so cute. I'm like, this kid is so pure right now. He hasn't even experienced anything yet. So
I love that.
yeah, I definitely know what you mean by that. How was
Congratulations.
it? How was it like on those sets, like the
Oh,
Crossroads with Britney and so forth? Because that was at the peak of her fame, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's always, I mean, she's always been
Yeah, that's true.
on top. But yeah, we had such a blast, and I mean, she's an awesome person. She's so sweet and humble, and we had a lot of fun. Zoe was awesome. Anson, Tamara D, she's married to Mike D. The Beastie Boys was the director. I mean, it was just like a bunch of cool people all
Yeah.
around.
How long does a shoot like that last for? 'Cause it's not like a lot of special effects. It's more just acting.
That one was, I feel like 2 months because we were on the road and stuff, and we went to Louisiana. And we went, yeah, we were like on a road trip. I can't remember every place we went, but we went a lot of places. And then 8 Mile was in Detroit. That was really fun.
What was Eminem like?
He was awesome. He's hilarious. Like
I
he's
believe
really
it.
cracking jokes, and yeah, he was really good. He was really focused.
Did you spend some time with Brittany Murphy?
Hmm. Yeah,
She's great, right?
yeah.
She's great.
He was. When I showed up to set, I walked into my trailer and there was a letter on my couch, and it was like thick, and it was like folded up like legal pad, like the 8x11. It was 3 pages of a letter from her to me. Just
Really?
so sweet, and just, I'm so happy you're here and another girl on set, and I admire you, and just on and on and on. It was the kindest letter ever, and it just kind of shows you who she was. She was just so sweet and so happy, and it's a shame what happened to her, but
That's really
she was
special that she did
she was
that.
an angel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you make those types of movies, and obviously you're in the cast with these juggernauts in real life, you don't exactly know what kind of success the movies will have. But both those were extremely successful at the box office and stuff of that nature. What's that like? Like, what's the process like in your head? Like, it's going to be a hit, but you don't know how big. And then obviously they're both home runs.
Yeah. What was it like?
Like in your mindset, was that like, did it outdo you guys' expectations of how the films would perform?
I have to be honest with you, like, so candid, at that age, that wasn't the types of things I was thinking about.
Fair enough.
I wasn't like, oh, how's this gonna hit? I was just like, wee, what's next?
That's good. You were present in the moment.
It's like just the same as I was never paid for hustle and flow. And now at this age, I'm like, hold on a second. You know what I mean? Like, that's not cool. And now that I'm older and you kind of like reflect on your life and take and do some house cleaning or housekeeping and go through your itemized things, you're just like, hold on a second, like, that's not cool. So I've also been royally screwed, and I've not ever said anything or done anything, but those experiences were both wonderful. I will say that 100%.
So I was going to segue into Hustle and Flow because obviously it's a very popular movie as well.
Such a
So
good experience.
yeah,
Yeah,
that movie.
absolutely.
These are all classics, and I just want to say, like, straight up, just from me to you, I've seen you throughout the years, and every role that you ever had left a big impact on me. Like, you always crushed it every single time I saw you. It was very memorable, and you can't say that about everyone, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. That's really nice.
So Hustle and Flow was another big hit.
Oh, so much fun. That was probably one of my most fun experiences on set. We had such a blast.
So what do you mean you didn't get paid for that? There was some controversy after? That doesn't seem
um,
right.
what's that?
That doesn't seem right.
Mm,
Long
yeah, it
story.
happened. Huh?
Long story.
I don't know. It just overlooked, or I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Obviously, a huge meltdown on a lot of people's parts, but it's okay. It's in my past, but it's I'm just letting I'm just being real that like um, this business. One of the reasons I think sometimes that I've been treated the way that I am is because at a young age, I let people know too much about my past. And I think being a woman already, we don't make as much as men. And then being a woman that came from humble beginnings in Section 8 housing and a mobile home park, I feel like I've been treated like, oh, well, she's lucky to get anything. And that's literally, I feel like how I've been treated. And it's not like a victim thing. It's just like, oh, well, it's cool because I keep getting blessed and I keep getting more and more parts, but it's not always pretty out there.
I understand. I appreciate you sharing that and being so vulnerable.
Yeah, it's all
And I
good.
get it. It makes sense.
Wish him all the best. And poor John Singleton isn't with us anymore, and he was an awesome, wonderful person, and I just pray for his soul and everything. And it just it's just a shame, but the memory lives on of the movie, and it was so fun, truly.
And you got nominated for some awards for that, right?
Yeah,
That's cool.
that was cool.
Yeah. So I had to segue into something just from a personal standpoint because
Something happy.
you were in one of my favorite shows, not my favorite show of all time, aside from Orange, of course.
Okay.
Sons of Anarchy, SOA. I love that show. It was such a ride. It was so much fun. And the character of Gemma obviously hits you in the face with a skateboard, which is something I'll never forget because I have the action figure that comes with Gemma with a skateboard. And I was going to bring it to show you, and I was like, I probably shouldn't.
Oh my gosh, that's
But
awesome.
what was it like being on that set specifically? And then also, obviously, working with Katie Seagal, who's a juggernaut herself.
She's amazing. I'll start there first of all. What a just I just looked up to her so much. She's also a singer, and she has a
She
band.
sang a lot for the show, right?
Yeah, but she has a touring group, and so her and I hit it off so much about music, and she's been sober like I think like over 20 years, maybe pushing 30 years even, and just a wonderful person. I mean, to see her go from Married with Children to that, I mean, just sensational, something to look up to, because I feel a lot like that. Like I've been so pushed into a stereotype, but to see her emerge like that gave me hope and faith that I'll get that opportunity as well. Like
That's
that
such a good
total,
point. And
yeah.
yeah, that should give you so much confidence because she was
But
Peggy Bundy and then she was Gemma. Like, talk about a 180. And also, like, that the Gemma character didn't happen to a little bit later on in her life, so to speak. So that's why I said, like, earlier, like, your best is yet to come. Like, you've so much to give the acting world and your gifts and so forth. So I have no doubt about that. But that's such a good point that you make. What was it like being on the set with SOA, even just like with Charlie and everybody?
Well, Charlie's really, really nice and very welcoming. A lot of the guys, they're all nice, but it was very, it was a male-driven set, and these guys all rode to work on their Harleys. I mean, they became the culture.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was awesome. They were all lined up. I think they were all gifted like,
Ron
maybe,
Perlman?
huh?
Ron
Oh
Perlman?
yeah, yeah. Ron, I love Ron. I've done like 3 movies with Ron.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, he's awesome. To me, he's awesome to me. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like it's one of those things. It's on that set there was like porn and there was like boobs and there, there's just a lot going on and there's just a lot of male energy, but it was what it was. I mean, these people were like living this life, so it was a lot like Orange. Like you couldn't really do Orange is the New Black and then like emerge out of it and go run off and do another part, So I was part of like what they were for Sons. That was like my life for Orange, like so deeply a part of that plot. So with Sons, I was a character that kind of came in and out a little more.
Yeah.
But I mean, you kidding me? The only thing that happened is one time you're not ever allowed to question Kurt Sutter about his writing, ever. So there was this one time that I was like, hey, do you think that we could open up on my face and then go down to my boobs and not start on my boobs and then go up? And then he nixed me out of like the whole rest of the.
Really?
Oh yeah, like he doesn't. And I was like, oh, I forgot that was the golden rule. Like you can't question him. So I still adore him, and we Instagram and say hi.
For the audience that doesn't know, Kurt Sutter is a creator of something.
Oh yeah,
and he's also married to Katie.
Yeah, he's the showrunner. He's the reasons why. But so that happened on that. Very strict.
A lot of the artists are like the real good, talented ones. You gotta be.
Yeah, he's a visionary. I understand. I understand.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, visionary.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, between that time period and then obviously Orange, like what was going on? Were you still doing the music thing at this point, or that fizzled out?
I've always done music. I still do music. It's just no one really cares.
I care. And my audience will care.
No, I mean, I know they care. It's just no one. If it's not on the radio, it's hard to find. But
sure.
Yeah, I've always worked. It's just I think when I'm not in like a big box office movie, people are like, "Where'd she go?" But if you look on my IMDb, I've never stopped working.
Yeah.
It's just I've done a lot of independent films, so I could do leads and stuff like that. So yeah, I've just always worked and been very, very lucky.
I love that. And there's a cool story in regards to Orange, right? Like, so you were dealing with some challenges also in personal life, and then you came out of that, and then you got the role in Orange is the New Black. And correct me if I'm wrong, but at this time, Taryn, Netflix was still kind of like fresh and new. It obviously wasn't where it is today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So was that like one of the first shows that Netflix like produced and made strictly for them?
I mean, I don't know exactly like what was on their roster at the time, but I know that like House of Cards had come out, and I know that Netflix was big because we were like renting their movies to come in the mail. And I remember when I got the call, my manager was like, "It's a newer platform. They're streaming, and I think it's going to be big." And I'm like, "All right, I'm cool. I'm down."
That's so cool.
I read the script and was like, "Oh man, she's horrible."
Really?
Oh yeah, she was. She was horrible, but I was like, okay. It was just meant to be like a small role, I think.
But everybody loved you, and the rest is
I don't know. I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm talking about the first script. I wasn't really in it all that much, and then I don't know if they had plans for me after that. I really don't know. They're always very secretive about like if you were coming back the next season or what. So
what was the characters? How do you pronounce her name? Tiffany Pennsatucky?
Tiffany Pennsatucky Doggett.
That's an infamous role. Everybody loved you. Everybody loves that show. It must have been so much fun.
It was.
And also, like earlier in the conversation, you said like something like Katie did, like you would like to evolve in terms of the parts that you get. But up until this point, and even though Orange was a monster success, still the character was kind of in this kind of role that you've been kind of dealing with for your whole career in terms of like, I don't want to say like troubled characters, but something of that nature, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they're written very one-dimensionally, like troubled and, whatever, just worse for wear. But I tend to sort of not judge my characters and try to show that there's a layered human being under all of the character. So I feel like I feel like between the amazing writing, and what I put in, that I can bring out more of my characters that are written on the page. But yeah, I've been typecast. I've been severely typecast, that's okay. You know what I mean? Like,
This is only a small part of your career and your journey.
yeah, it was an amazing part. It was just like, I mean, it was so much fun having that job for seven straight years, and getting to move to New York is all the whole experience. Like we talked about, the journey, it was all part of the journey.
When was the last time you've been out here in New York?
I've been there not too long ago. I think I did a movie in New Jersey like 2 months ago,
Oh,
and
really?
I went to Brooklyn. Yeah,
Nice.
I love it there.
You do?
Yes.
Better than Cali?
They're just so different. They're
Complete
so
opposites,
different.
right?
Except for they're both on super lockdown.
I'm in Manhattan, so I
Exactly.
understand.
Really?
Yeah. It's getting better now. The city's getting a little bit of
Oh, good.
some energy.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So Orange is the New Black. The show was a monster hit. I don't want to say put Netflix on the map, but like that was the biggest show ever at the time. That must have been surreal. And then obviously you said like they're a little shady or secretive, like you don't know how many seasons it's gonna be, and it keeps going. Here you are, you're on that journey for 6 years.
No, no, not shady. Just I
Like
think
secretive.
yeah, well, just we never knew if we were coming back the next season. I think because it's jail, it's like it's real life. People get transferred around, and it's like, I always said this about it. Like, if you knew that you were going to get hit by a car before you did, would you have crossed the street? So I feel like they made this show like life happens. Like, you literally are, okay, like you're reading the script, like, all right, this is what's happening.
Love that.
Yeah. And like our names would be plastered across the script, each page. So if you lost the darn thing somewhere, you were blasted out. Like, you lost your script because your name's on each page.
Yeah. I love that you said that. Taryn, one of the things that I teach in my coaching programs with the mindset is to help my clients go through a process called modeling, which essentially they find someone that they hold in very high regard and they utilize some of the attributes that made them successful. Not taking their identity, just like if you see someone that has a ton of confidence or structure, whatever the case may be, just embodying some of those traits. And something in Hollywood that a lot of people do, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on it, is method acting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit similar. What is your perspective and what are your thoughts on method acting on like a very deep level?
Well, it's a technique, and it's a learned technique. Um, I feel the most method that I've chosen to go with a role is probably with Orange, to where I was so embodied in that I couldn't put myself on tape for other things. Like,
Really?
I was her on the weekend. She became like an extremity of me. So basically, method is just like fully, probably some like Heath Ledger type
That's
life.
what I had in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, like, see, so it's, the way that I typically act is what I do is I work from a lot of instinct and intuition. And what I do is I usually try to find an experience. Like, I did a movie called Cleveland Abduction. And it was a true story about those poor three women that were held captive for over a decade. And I played the one that was held the longest. I've never been held captive in chains for 13 years of my life. So how can so all I can do is access the most pain and confusion and surrender that I've ever felt in my real life, and then marry that with the script, and then obviously meeting up with the real victim, and just portray the best I can from my own experiences, but obviously mixed with the experience of my character. But that's the way I work best, because then I can go home at night and be Taryn again.
That's crazy. And I'll tell you why, because another thing that I teach in my programs is anchoring. And it's the exact opposite. It's the ability to anchor a very good experience so that you can bring it from the past to the present and elevate your current state. But as an actress, you actually did the opposite. You anchored a negative state to bring you down. And obviously was very powerful. I never even thought about that. That's crazy.
So that's the thing about the roles I play, is there's a lot of like emotional abuse that goes on. Like, I feel like I'm constantly having to access the dark side. And so one promise that I've made to myself recently is that, like, I've committed suicide in characters way too many times, right? I've died way too many times. And like, what message am I
No
putting
more
out?
dying.
Right. Like, what message am I putting out to the universe? Like, how does the universe know the difference between Taryn and my parts when I'm that in it, you know? So I made a pact that I don't want to die anymore of overdoses. In movies, I refuse to be murdered like arbitrarily just for like sport in a movie. So I've had to say no to a lot of stuff because there's a lot of darkness in the films in Hollywood. There's a lot of symbolism and darkness, and you want to make sure that you're not wrapped up in something that you don't even know is happening without you even realizing it, right? Like, acting is cool, it's great, it's fun, it's escapism, and man, is it a blast when you truly are connected because you go elsewhere and you come back uncut. You're like, oh, where the why? And that's an amazing experience. But yeah, there's just, you have to be very careful about the material that and the stuff, and that, the director and the producer and everybody around it is like, is good. And I don't know, it's just become a little bit more of a spiritual experience for me now.
No, it makes perfect sense. And most of the people in Hollywood that are very talented are very, they're artists, very spiritual. So I definitely understand what you're saying. So you have a very strong faith, right, Taryn?
Yeah.
What exactly is the deal with that? Is that something that you picked up recently or always?
No, I grew up very religious. I just grew up a different religion than I am now. But it's a really hard topic to talk about in
I
Hollywood,
understand.
but being Christian. But yeah, it's just it's who I am now, and it's the way I live my life. And so it's just really hard for me to do movies where there's like horror films, or any type of satanic stuff, or any type of like channeling in like ghosts and stuff, because like I said, how does the universe or God, how do you decipher like what you're bringing in? Because like I said, when you get so into a role like I do, like how do I know what creeps into that portal at that time when I just opened up? You're so open because you're vulnerable. So I'm just more picky about it now.
Yeah. And for the audience listening, like what she's saying is that she gives her everything to every part. So that's why it opens up a level of vulnerability. Like if someone didn't have that type of work ethic, then they might not be dealing with stuff like this. So it's a tribute to how hard Taryn works. And I
But it's
love
like the secret. It's like what we think we become, right?
very
It's
familiar.
like, yeah, if you visualize it, like if you build it, they will come. So if I'm building something in a role that isn't Taryn, how do I know that what I'm building isn't coming to that character and not, how does it know the difference? Like it's the same as fight or flight mode. How does your body know if you need to, push out that adrenaline to lift a car off of a human being, or if you're just paranoid because you think you just saw someone walk by your window? Your body doesn't know the difference. It just goes into fight or flight mode. That's the point I'm making with the role. Like if I'm not in it and I'm channeling it full blown, how does anything know the difference? Because we are what we think, and we are what we eat, and we are who we hang with. It's all working together.
This is really deep and I love
I
it.
know, sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, we love deep.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Sometimes people
listen.
get bored about that, but it's very
No,
genuine.
be as deep as you want. I love this because I'm big on the secret and the law of attraction as well. And I couldn't agree with it more. But very rarely do we talk about the opposite, like you just did, and it's so true. Just as you want to attract great things in your life, if you attract negativity, even if it's for something such as a role, it's
Yes,
likely that the universe is going to give that back to you. So you got to be very careful and cautious. Tread lightly.
you get it. That's what I'm trying to say. So just as far as my career goes, I just want to have a happy, peaceful life, and because I'm getting older, and that's my desires now, you know.
Understood.
And so I'm really visualizing. I want to play like, let's say, I'll put myself in a scenario. Rather than be let's say I'm working in like a rehab situation, rather than be one of the rehab patients, I'd rather be the counselor, right? So you still put me in my stereotypical scenario, right? Because you're used to seeing me in a troubled area, but I want to now be the hope in it, not so like it's just
Yeah,
little switches like that.
I love that. And you will. 100% you will. I have no No doubt whatsoever. I have to ask you because your mindset is really special to me, and I find it very relatable. Even like in the beginning, like when you were competitive and just that you hated to lose, I personally think that's a great trait and stuff of that nature. Who are some of the people that like you sharpen the axe to? Like people always ask me, like, Craig, who are your inspirations? And I'm a big journaler. I have so many journals around, and I always write down different things, whether it be fictional people such as James Bond or real life people who I, just I get a ton out of. Like, who are some people that you sharpen the axe to or have that inspire you?
What my favorite actor of all time is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leo?
I think he's amazing. I think that he is the most non-lazy actor. I mean, even if he's in the background, he's just so alive. He's never a dull moment. I think he's been underrated and screwed a bunch. Like he should win every award for every movie he does. But I think the panel, the Golden Globes, and I think that they're hard on him because he's always good. That they're like, what's new? But I love him.
Got his Oscar finally.
Yeah, I know. That was great, and I loved his speech. I love his charity work. But I mean, honestly, I'm gonna tell you something right now, and I said this earlier.
Tell me.
I've never compared myself to anybody. I've never idolized anybody or looked up to anybody except for like my mom. Like I've always just been. I mean, I appreciate people. I appreciate what they do. I will join into their charity stuff. I'm a big lover of animals and veganism and saving the children, but like I'm on my own path. I don't really hang out with other famous people. I've always had friends since I was young, before anybody knew who the heck I was. I've always just been kind of a normal surfer, kind of ragamuffin, and just I'm just Taryn, and I've never changed and I never will. And so I look up to you and I appreciate their work, but I don't study anybody. I mean, I'll study like professors and I'll read a bunch of books,
Understood.
and
I,
take
I,
what I can from it.
I know that you said that some of your favorite artists are Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney, and Nirvana.
Yeah, my studio right here, I've got Prince, Michael Jackson, Elvis, Bob Marley, a bunch of my album covers.
All the legends.
Whitney
And
Houston.
it's crazy that none of them are with us any longer. But and I heard you say, because I told you I do my homework. Um, you choose to remember them the way they should be remembered, in their prime, on fire, not how the way the media may or may not portray them. Is that right?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Like again, like who knows what really went down. Like it's so disrespectful to think that we know what happened to these people. How do we know? We don't live with them day in and day out. There's so much pressure.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure. I can only imagine what they went through.
Sure. I mean,
Even on my little scale, like it's a lot.
yeah. So, like, what suggestions would you give someone that was coming up that had a similar path to yours, that maybe like didn't have a ton of support around them in the beginning? Now, everything that you know now, like, what would you suggest them in regards to that and how Hollywood and what it's all about?
I mean, man, it's so different, especially right now. It's like I know a lot of the youth and the kids that want this really bad. They're all really into YouTube and having their own channels and stuff. And I just feel that's more of like a branding approach, which is that's how you make money, tons of money. I can really only speak for like someone that wants to act in a thespian, like ready to study like playwrights and ready to just dig in, watch movies all the time, and know movies front to back, and just yeah, just like if you're not working or anything, like just know that a bunch of people aren't. It's a very hard business to get into, but it's so possible for anybody. And it doesn't matter how you look, how tall you are, how short you are, if you're the prettiest girl in school, if you're not pretty in that way, like you were made just the way you were meant to be in God's image, and there's a place for you. And you just have to have your mind on right. You don't make millions overnight. You don't make crap at first. You have to take it for a minute and improve. And it really weeds out the weak and the faint of hearts in no time. People that come from like with like attached mommies and daddies that aren't like, that, all right, you can go. I mean, they'll run back in 2.1 seconds because it's a brutal, brutal business.
Yeah.
And it's not loving, and it's not there to hold you when you didn't get the part, So you just have to have, as my grandma said, skin of a rhinoceros.
Love that.
Like, what, grandma? They have tough skin?
Skin of a rhino. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that if you don't mind, but I'll quote you. I'll quote your
Skin of
grandma.
She said rhinoceros.
But Taryn, also, like, one of the traits that I said earlier that I absolutely love about you, and that just your ability to be relentless and your persistence. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like when you went out there, like, there was no plan B. Like, you were making this happen. You burned the ships. There was no retreat. And that's just what it is. And a lot of people, they get dejected and then they give up. How did you have that mindset to just no plan B? This is what's going to happen. And that's just what it is.
I was always taught not to have a backup plan. However, one of the things that I like to teach people and help people is that one thing that helped me with my acting and my singing was that when I didn't get a role, I could go play my guitar and like sing, and that filled up that space in me that's the rejection can become a lot to where you start to doubt yourself. And so just to have that other thing that you're badass at, like that you can paint, that you go and build cars, like maybe you know how to fly an airplane, like don't forget your other hobbies. However, you don't need a fallback plan. And if somebody asks you, so are you an actor? Don't ever say, oh, I'm trying. No, it's, are you an actor? Yes, that's right. Because if you're an actor, it's who you are.
Black and white answer, no gray area. Simply
Right. Come across that all the time. I mean, I'm trying. I haven't gotten the part yet. I said that wasn't the question. Are you an actor? I mean, are you? And I just drill them.
And also, you have to believe, like, you have to sell yourself first. Once you have that self-belief, it's only a matter of time. So if someone asks you, like, 20 years ago, are you an actress? Yes, I am. Just wait. And I feel the same way. And a lot of people, like you said, like, if they haven't, quote unquote, made it yet or got that big break, they're unsure to classify themselves as that. But self-confidence and self-belief is everything. I mean, look at Taryn. She didn't have connections into Hollywood like some people do. She was relentless. She was persistent. She had her eye on the prize. And it's no secret as to why she had all this success.
Because they can sniff out the desperation. And for some reason, though another actor might need it more than the other, and they might be the same as far as skills, they want the person that is adaptable, can step into the room, it's professional, nice, prepared, and punctual. When you're on time? What's the word? Punctual person. Like, that's what they want. They want a reliable person who's good.
Yeah.
And also nice and normal to be around, like a bro, like not some weird like thespian that's like, oh yeah, like doing all
That's amazing.
the weirdest things on set. Like, I get that's your process, but that's very distracting to like 4 other actors trying to get into the character. They're like just when they're on their own program, and you're like, nice.
I love belly laughs. This is great. Just real quickly, what's the weirdest thing you ever saw somebody do?
Oh my goodness.
Don't be shy.
Like, to get prepared?
Yeah.
You really want to know?
Please.
Horrifying.
Tell me.
I've seen someone that needs to play a heroin addict go buy heroin and shoot it to see what it was like. That's called method. Yeah. Something I don't agree with.
Wow.
They made it.
That's commitment.
Can you believe that? But I'm not going to say who, and I'm not going to say when, but it wasn't fun.
That's wild.
And I didn't participate.
I have to ask you. So
you're speechless, as was I.
For the first time in my life. So
they did it in between their fingers. It was the weirdest thing.
My goodness.
That's horrible. Maybe cut this out. I'm telling you, it was not you asked, though.
We don't cut anything out. We like it raw and real and authentic, which you are authentic. I love that. So we know what the vision is now for the acting. We want to come kind of full circle with the roles, and you're going to nail it, and I can't wait. It'll be like Gemma, so to speak, you know,
Yes.
something like that. And I'm so excited for you. What's the vision right now for the music?
I have like 110 unreleased songs. I have so much music just sitting
A
on a
lot,
lot.
right?
Yeah, it's a lot. um, I don't know, I mean, I have stuff ready to be released. I'm just sort of, excuse me, I'm just waiting for that feeling to kind of come back, you know?
Yeah, the creativity and the spirit.
Hmm.
I understand.
And just the drive that it takes to like really push it out there, and, all the social media stuff, and just like, you're putting yourself out there in a way like that.
Understood.
Yeah.
You said before that you came back from a run right before we started this. What is your fitness routine like right now? I know that's a big part of your life.
Yeah, I go to my personal trainer 3 days a week. We have to train outside now, but that's been great. I hike. There's a lot of beautiful hikes where I live, and lately, just to like clear my mind, like I go on these long, long walks. I try to get like 15 to 20,000 steps in a day.
That's a nice amount.
Just because I feel so much better. Like it's just, and I only bring my phone because I want to get the steps, but otherwise I love nature. I always have. I love like looking at, and there's just where I live, there's so many beautiful things, birds. It's so corny, but I love like the
It's not
birds
funny.
flying around, and I love to see the flowers, and I just feel like that's my time to ground, to anchor
I could
myself.
I could feel that right now. And you said you don't like to bring your phone, but I feel the same way. Sometimes it's just distracting. I like to be disconnected and just be present in the moment. Is that what you meant by that?
Yeah, because it's like there was a time that we had answering machines and people could wait. They could wait till you got home and checked your messages. So I feel like I just feel, the one beautiful thing about this terrible time is that it really has, it'll kind of weed out people, and you see like who truly cares about you. You'll see how there's really nowhere to go. So, you like cherish the calls you get and the emails, but you're not like frantically like, doing stuff, because right now you kind of have to like wait for things to come in and just for the shift to happen again. So I feel like it's been a beautifully tragic experience, but more beauties come out of it, hopefully, in the end.
And also, for the most part, it's what you make of it, right? Like there's
Yes.
always a move to be made. There's always something we can do.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you one a weird question. So usually if someone probably asks you like what's your suggestion to someone coming up, this, that, another thing. So I pivoted from on Wall Street, manufacturing a lot of wealth and doing that whole thing, but I found myself unfulfilled and burnt out and so forth. And so when the pandemic happened, it's going to sound spiritual, but I heard the whispers and I went all in on my purpose and my passion, which is to help people and basically coach people with their mindset and also a speaker and so forth. Now I have the podcast, which is just had 17,000 downloads in the first 8 days, which supposedly is unheard of. And I can't wait for the audience to hear you. But I'm working a lot, but there's nothing else in the world I'd rather do. I'm so grateful that I finally found what really lights my soul on fire. And
Yeah.
I've had a ton of success so far. People think it's an overnight success, but they don't see the 20-hour days and so forth. What
Yeah.
suggestion can you give me based on everything that you've been through, someone that I hold in such high regard, such respect, just to keep up the momentum and keep flying to new heights?
Oh. Hmm. Well, I sort of was referencing that like you're on top thing right now, because I want you to stay up there. And
Thank you.
yeah, just, what, I really appreciate the way you studied me, and you weren't mailing it in, as I like to say. Like, I feel like you went a little deeper than even what's on the surface of the internet. So that means a lot to me.
I
I think
told
that
you
if
we would.
huh?
I told you we'd be a little bit different, a little bit more special and unique.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that if you do believe that, someone's looking out for you, that the appreciation and the preparation, that it's when luck and what is it, when preparation and luck is when preparation and opportunity collide. And I feel like you're prepared, and I feel like you're treating me with a lot of respect and dignity, and also celebrating my career. And I just feel like if you stay on this path, you keep celebrating people, they're going to celebrate you right back, because it's like it's a cause and effect.
I'm getting a little emotional right now because
Oh.
I'm receiving that right to my soul, and it's so true. And I do make an effort to really do the homework and dive deep and build a rapport with you, because not only do I have a ton of respect for you, but I wanted to make this fun and a little bit different as opposed to phoning it in or mailing it in, as they say. So I appreciate you saying that, Taryn. And this will definitely not be the last time that we collaborate.
All right.
Where
Sounds
can the audience find you? Where do you hang out the most? Instagram? Where?
yeah. I pretty much hang out on Instagram. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is all Taryn Manning. And I have TarynManning.com. Like if somebody wants to me to autograph a photo or something, they can go to that, and I get all those. So yeah, just stuff like that. If they want to see all my trailers or hear my music, it's all online.
And for the audience listening, should you check out Taryn's stuff? The answer is absolutely. She's on fire. She's a great human being. She's such a great story to tell. And I've no doubt that her music's amazing, and I can't wait to listen to it. And Taryn, I just want to say to you personally, you don't shy away from your struggles and your challenges. They've shaped you, your journey. And that's something that I find just so relatable and liberating. And what you know that you are the definition of perseverance, grit, and heart from your journey of humble beginnings with no connections necessarily in Hollywood to grinding and becoming, in my opinion, one of the most underrated and talented actresses ever. In addition to pursuing your passion as a singer, songwriter, it's so many more accomplishments. You're someone I admire, I appreciate, I can call a role model to any young kids coming up. And I personally guarantee you right now that your best is yet to come. And I'm super excited to continue to watch you fly.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. That's really sweet of you. So kind. Thank you.
Absolutely. Keep doing your thing. I'm a huge fan,
You too.
and we will definitely chat soon.
I wish you all the best. Okay, seriously, you're gonna soar. You're a good guy, good person. Thank
Th-
you.
Thank you, Taryn.
All
Hang
right.
up in 1 second.